Dear student, good morning. Today we start a new chapter, Redox Reactions. It is a chapter number 8 and class 11th chemistry, second volume. So, redox reaction is the sum of oxidation and reduction reaction. Means a reaction which having the oxidation and reduction is said to be the redox reaction. It is the abbreviate word, reduction for red and oxidation for ox. So it's oxidation and reduction, means reduction and oxidation. So substance which is oxidized and another substance which is reduced, if the both phenomena is a complete in a reaction, they said to be the redox reaction. If we take the another definition, so reaction where oxidation and reduction both are happened, so they said to be the redox reaction. So what are the oxidation reaction and what are the reduction reaction? We said to the next slide, and they have two concepts, oxidation and conventional method, conventional say, and second is a electron way. So what are they? We discuss about the today's slide. On your display you have seen the redox reaction, reduction and oxidation. So substance, the one is oxidized and another which is reduced. So these are the abbreviated form of the two words. So oxidation, when the substance, the first parameter is add the oxygen, so they said to be oxidation. For example, carbon is gaining the oxygen and becoming to carbon dioxide, so it is said to be the carbon is oxidized after the gaining of oxygen, means oxidation. Another, magnesium is gaining the oxygen and becoming to magnesium oxide, so magnesium is also said to be oxidized because it is gaining the oxygen element. Next is addition of electronegative element, means non-metal is gaining by a substance, so they said to be oxidation. For example, zinc is gaining the sulfur, and sulfur is a electronegative element, means it is a non-metals, and so they also said to be the oxidation. Next, magnesium is gaining the non-metal, means chlorine, electronegative element, become into magnesium chloride, so it is also be said to the oxidation because they zinc in a first example and magnesium in a second example, they accepting the non-metals, so they come into the category oxidation. Third parameter is removal of hydrogen. If a substance remove the hydrogen, so it is said to be the oxidation. For example, hydrogen sulfide, rotten egg like smell, oxygen gas, so hydrogen sulfide is removing the hydrogen substance and become into water, so these are said to be oxidation. Second example, magnesium oxide react with hydrogen chloride and become into manganese chloride and chlorine gas and water, so in this substance hydrogen chloride is removing the hydrogen, so it is said to be the oxidation. Student, next the phenomena known as a reduction, and reduction is when the substance is addition of hydrogen, means if any substance are gaining the hydrogen element, so they become into the reduction. For example, hydrogen sulfide and chlorine gas is gaining the hydrogen substance, they become into hydrogen chloride and sulfur. So chlorine is said to the reduction because they are gaining the hydrogen element. Second example, chlorine gas and hydrogen gas are both are react and become into hydrogen chloride. So chlorine gas is gaining the hydrogen, so this type of reaction is considered into the reduction. And when the addition of hydrogen is gaining by a substance, so they consider into the reduction reaction. Keep this thing in your mind. The second parameter is addition of electropositive element, means metal. If a substance is gaining the metal, or they consider into the reduction. The example, ferric chloride, they gaining the iron and become into the FeCl2. So in this condition, the ferric chloride is gaining the iron, means a metal, means electropositive substance, so they also consider into the reduction reaction. Second example, mercury chloride, and second one is stannum chloride, both are react, so they become into the Hg2Cl2 and SnCl4. So in this condition, the mercury become into the two atoms. In this condition, they are 2 mole, but in the second example, the mercury is adding the 2 atoms, so they become into the reduction reaction because the number of atoms of a metal is increased. Removal of oxygen. If a substance remove the oxygen gas, so they are also coming to the category reduction. For example, Fe2O3 and carbon monoxide both are react. So ferric oxide is remove the oxygen gas and become into the iron metal. So these example are coming to the category reduction because a substance is remove the oxygen gas. Another example, HgO, mercury oxide, on the decomposition they become into the mercury and oxygen gas. So the mercury oxide remove the oxygen atom. So these are also the example of a reduction because in both two reactions the substance is remove the oxygen atom. Another parameter is removal of electronegative element, and this condition is coming to the category of a reduction. For example, FeCl3, ferric chloride react with hydrogen gas and become into FeCl2 and HCl. So in FeCl3, the non-metal means electronegative element is removed. In this side they have 3 chlorine atoms, but in this side they have only 2 atoms. So this category is coming to the reduction. Silicon tetrachloride SiCl4 react with sodium, become into silicon and sodium chloride. So in this type, the silicon tetrachloride remove the electronegative element which are chlorine. So they also come into the category reduction. So when the electronegative element is removed, so they come into category of the reduction. So student, the another concept to define the oxidation reduction reaction, and it is the best for remember and is based on the electronic concepts. So electronic concept of oxidation reduction process. So first one we discuss about the what is oxidation. So a process which involve loss of electrons by an atom of group of atoms, means if the electrons are lost, so they come into the category oxidation. On your display you have seen, if a substance is, for example, there are two substances A and B, and A is loss of electrons, means they are lose the electrons. So A, we said it is oxidized, and if these electrons is gained by the substance B, these are gaining the electrons and these electrons is supplied by the A, so they come into the category reduction, means they are reduced. So substance which is lose the electrons is said to the oxidation process, oxidation phenomena, and those which are gaining the electron, they are said to be reduced, means reduction phenomena. So in this condition, the electrons are loose and electrons are gained. The substance lose the electrons, come into oxidation, and gaining of electron come into the category reduction. This phenomena is very easy and it is very rememberable to students and other sides. So these are the electronic concepts. So loss of electron resulting in increase in positive charge means if a substance release the electrons, so their positive charge increase and they become into the cation. For example, if a substance sodium and sodium is released one electron, the configuration of sodium 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. If they are losing one electron, so they become into cation and a positive and the electrons are removed. Second alkaline earth metal magnesium, when magnesium is released the two electrons, so they become into the category of also the oxidation. Third, Fe2 positive ferrous ions, and they become into, after the removing of one electron, they become into the ferric ion. So these are the condition when the substance or the atoms are released the electrons and they are oxidized. Next phenomena is coming to the category reduce or reduction. The loss of electron is decrease of negative charge. For example, sulfide ion, and the sulfide ion become into the sulfur and they remove the two electrons. So in this condition, the negative charge is decrease. So when the negative charge is going on decrease, it means they are oxidized. So when an anion is released the electrons and they become into the atom, so come into the category of also the oxidized because their negative charge is going on decrease. Second, when a 2-chloride ion, they lose the two electrons and become into chlorine gas, so they are also said to be oxidized because they are losing the electrons and become into the atomic condition. The next example, MnO4 negative, when release the electrons and become into the MnO4 negative. Left hand side the charge is 2 negative, but right hand side the charge is 1 negative, means the charge of negative charge is going on decrease, so it's said to be the oxidized. Next, the phenomena is known as a reduction, and reduction where process which involve gain of electrons by an atom or group of atoms, means when they accept the electrons, so they are said to be the reduction. So gain of electron resulting in decrease of positive charge, means the positive charge is going on decrease, is said to be the reduce or reduction. For example, ferric ion, when gaining the one electrons, so they become into the ferrous ion, their positive charge is going on decrease, so they become into the reduce. Stannum, the two example, Sn4 positive, when accepting the two electron become into Sn2 positive, so their positive charge is going on decrease, so they become into reduce. SbF5, antimony 5 tetravalent cation, when accepting the two electron they become into the Sb3 positive. So in these three examples you seen on your display, the positive charge after the accepting the electron, they decrease their positive charge, so they become into, they said to be they are reduced, and this phenomena is known as reduction. The another subcategories, gain of electron resulting in increase of negative charge. So if the substance is gaining the electrons, so their negative charge is going on increase. For example, chlorine gas, when accept the two electrons, so they become into the 2-chloride ion. Another example, when sulfur atom gaining the two electrons, so they become into the sulfide ion, means anion. So after the accepting the electron, the atom become into the anion. Next example, MnO4 negative, when accept the electrons, so they become into MnO4 2 negative. So the charge of negative charge is going on increase when the electrons is accepting, so they become into the reduction. So oxidation reduction reaction as electrons transfer reactions. So a species which loses electrons is said to be oxidized species, and which gain electrons is said to be reduced. यानी वो सभी स्पेसीज जो इलेक्ट्रॉन को लूज कर रही हैं हम उनको कहेंगे वो ऑक्सीडाइज हो गई, और जो इलेक्ट्रॉन को गेन कर रही हैं हम कहेंगे कि वो रिड्यूस हो गई हैं। यहाँ आप देखिएगा, these are a chemical reaction. The zinc is removing their 2 electrons. Zinc is reactive than copper. So the reactions, the zinc and the copper ion. So copper ion is gaining the 2 electron which is supplied by the zinc. So zinc, after the removing 2 electrons, they become into the Zn2 positive, and they loses the 2 electrons, so they are oxidation. And copper ion, when accepting the 2 electrons, so their positive charge is going on decrease, so they become into the copper, and this we said these are reduced, means they are gaining the electrons, so they complete the phenomena of a reduction, and these after the accepting the 2 electron which are supplied by the zinc. So these are in a oxidation redox, means redox reaction, the only the electrons are transferred. One substance is supplied to the electrons and said to be oxidized, and one is accept the electrons and said to be the reduced. For a simple way, the example on your display, the redox means oxidation is loss of electron and reduction is gain of electron. For example, Fe3 positive become into Fe2 positive, their positive charge is going on decrease, so they said to be the reduce. Another example, aurum 3 positive become into Au2 positive, so they also said to be the reduce. So redox reaction, after the definition of electron transfer, first substance which are lose the electrons, oxidize or oxidation, and which is gain the electron said to be the reduction or reduce. So redox reaction in which both oxidation and reduction occur. So substance lose of electron oxidation and substance gain of electron is reduction. Here you see the condition of A and B, the both substance. So A substance is losing the electron, so they are become into the cation. They have the positive charge, so the oxidation, and substance which is gaining the electrons and becoming to the negative charge, so this is said to be the reduce. This is reduction. So redox reaction, the electron donor and another is a electron receptor. So those which are electron donor means supply the electrons to the electron receptor, and these reaction, because oxidation and reduction both are complete, so they become into redox reaction. So substance which are supply the electron is said to be the oxidized, and those which are gaining the electron receptor is said to be the reduced. Reduced for substances also they have higher number of electrons comparison than oxidized substance. So there are two half reaction. First one is said to be the oxidation half reaction, and second one is known as a reduction half reaction. So include in a redox reaction the oxidation half reaction and reduction half reaction, the two part. First one, for example, sodium chloride. So sodium is positive charge, and reduction half reaction means chlorine atom is gaining the electrons by the sodium supply, so they are become into chloride ion. So sodium, after the supplying of electron, they are known as oxidation, means oxidized, and after the accepting the electron by the chlorine become into chloride ion, they become into the reduced part, means reduction half part. Oxidizing agent, the substance which can accept one or more electrons said to be the oxidizing agent. Oxidizing agent means acceptor of electron. For example, chlorine atom, when they accept the one electron, so they become into chloride ion. So they said to be the oxidizing agent because it is gaining the electrons. Another is reducing agent, the substance which can remove one or more electrons, means these are supplier of electrons or donor of electrons. So they are said to the reducing agent. For example, sodium supply the electron and become into the positive charge, and they are supply the electrons, so it is said to be reducing agent. So oxidizing agent always be accept the electron, and reducing agent always be supply to the electron. These are the difference between both substance. The next topic is redox reaction in aqueous solution. So copper sulfate and zinc is higher reactive than copper. So zinc is displaced to the copper and they form their solution. So they undergoes into the solution. The zinc sulfate is formed and copper is displaced. So in this reaction, the ion of copper in sulfate, because sulfate also the 2 negative charge. So in this situation, the copper has 2 positive charge, and zinc is in atomic condition, they have no any charge. But when zinc is displaced to copper, so they are supply the electrons and goes into the solution, so they have possess the 2 positive charge, and copper is after the accepting of electron which is supplied by the zinc, so they become into the deposit side and become into the liberate for the solid substance, means a copper form. So zinc is supplied to the electrons, so they are known as a oxidize, and copper is take to the electrons, so they are said to be the reduce. So these are the reaction in a aqueous solution. Oxidation, because zinc is loses 2 electron and copper is gaining the 2 electrons, so these are coming into the category reduction. If we discuss about the oxidizing agent, so copper is gaining the 2 electrons, so copper 2 positive is said to the oxidizing agent, and zinc is supplied to the electrons, so zinc is said to be the reducing agent. So always be the substance which are supply the electrons or donor of electrons is reducing agent, and which is gaining the electrons, it is oxidizing agent. So in this reaction, Cu2 positive is gaining the 2 electrons of copper, because copper is gaining the electrons, so they said to be the oxidizing agent, and zinc is removing the electrons, so it is said to be the reducing agent.